Southeast Asia is an incredibly diverse and vast region, often geographically divided into two broad categories: Maritime Southeast Asia and Mainland Southeast Asia. Maritime Southeast Asia includes countries like Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, regions characterized by extensive archipelagos, islands, and a maritime culture. Mainland Southeast Asia, on the other hand, comprises the mainland countries such as Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, which are connected by land borders and share many cultural, historical, and geographical features. When examining the region more closely, especially through population density maps, something quite peculiar becomes apparent, particularly in mainland Southeast Asia. There exists a noticeable population void or sparsely populated zone in the central part of Southeast Asia, roughly aligned with the borders of Laos and Cambodia. This area stands out because both Laos and Cambodia have notably small populations relative to their similarly sized neighbors. For instance, Laos has a population of only about 7.9 million people, and Cambodia's population is approximately 17.6 million. To put this into perspective, their immediate neighbors, Thailand to the west and Vietnam to the east, have vastly larger populations, with Thailand housing around 71.6 million and Vietnam about 101.6 million people. The stark differences in population density reveal themselves even more clearly when looking at regional averages. Vietnam boasts an impressive average population density of about 322 people per square kilometer, making it one of the most densely populated countries in the world, comparable to nations like Japan and Pakistan. Thailand's density hovers around 140 people per square kilometer, which aligns with the regional average, while Cambodia's density drops to about 100 people per square kilometer. And Laos's is remarkably low at just 34 people per square kilometer, roughly 1/10 of Vietnam's density. These disparities stand out as some of the most significant differences in population density between neighboring countries anywhere in the world, especially considering their close geographical proximity. Laos's extremely low population density invites further curiosity the more we analyze it. Initially, it appears to be the least dense country in mainland Southeast Asia and ranks as the 8th least dense country across the entire Asian continent. Its population density is more akin to countries in arid regions or the Himalayan highlands, places with challenging terrains and harsher climates, rather than its more developed and populous neighbors. But why does this situation exist? What are the underlying reasons for Laos and Cambodia being so much more sparsely populated than Vietnam and Thailand? Part of the explanation lies in the notable geographic differences, especially in the case of Laos. Laos has an average elevation of about 710 meters above sea level, making it one of the most mountainous countries in Southeast Asia. Its landscape is heavily covered in dense jungles and rugged mountains, which significantly hampers land development, infrastructure building, and agricultural productivity. These geographical features make land in Laos more difficult and expensive to utilize for farming or urbanization compared to the flatter, more accessible lands of Vietnam and Thailand. Consequently, Laos has the lowest amount of arable land among the mainland Southeast Asian countries, with only about 6.2% of its territory suitable for agriculture. In comparison, Vietnam has over 20%, Cambodia around 22%, and Thailand exceeds 30%. Given Laos's smaller land area, this means it has only about a third of Cambodia's arable land, 1/5 of Vietnam's, and roughly 1/10 of Thailand's vast agricultural potential. While the limited arable land and mountainous terrain partly explain Laos's sparse population, they do not entirely account for the situation. For example, the Chinese province of Yunnan, just north of Laos, is even more mountainous, an average elevation more than twice that of Laos, yet it supports a population density nearly 4 times higher. Similarly, Cambodia, which is geographically flatter and has an abundance of fertile land comparable to Vietnam, still has only about a third of Vietnam's population density. This indicates that other factors are at play. A critical element in understanding these disparities is the quality and productivity of the land itself. Vietnam's agricultural regions are among the most productive in the world, thanks largely to its rich river deltas and favorable climate. Vietnam controls two of the world's top 5 most agriculturally productive river deltas. The Red River Delta in the north, home to Hanoi, and the Mekong River Delta in the south, which is comparable in size to the Netherlands and considered the second most productive rice-growing region globally. The Mekong Delta receives an enormous volume of nutrient-rich sediment deposited annually by the Mekong River, originating from Tibet's mountains. This sedimentation, combined with year-round warm and humid temperatures and substantial rainfall, creates ideal conditions for multiple rice harvests each year, often 3 per annum. The region produces about 60% of Vietnam's rice and is called Vietnam's rice bowl. Similarly, the Red River Delta produces around 20% of Vietnam's rice, despite comprising only about 5% of the country's land area. These fertile regions are densely populated because they provide abundant food and economic opportunities, attracting large populations. In contrast, Cambodia, despite having comparable arable land and being less mountainous, has a much lower population density. The key difference lies in the quality of the land and infrastructure. Vietnam's productive river deltas and proximity to major trade routes, thanks to its lengthy coastline, allow for efficient trade and economic development. Vietnam's coastline facilitates maritime trade, connecting it more easily to China's major population centers and other regional markets. This geographical advantage boosts Vietnam's economic potential and population density. Cambodia, on the other hand, has a smaller coastline and lacks the extensive deltaic systems that make Vietnam so agriculturally productive. Laos is entirely landlocked and surrounded by mountainous terrain, which severely limits its capacity for trade and development. Its borders with China, Myanmar, Vietnam and Thailand are almost entirely covered by mountains, creating natural barriers that restrict movement and economic interaction. For example, the border between Laos and Vietnam is so remote and inaccessible that it is home to an undiscovered species of megafauna, the salola, a bovine creature weighing around 100 kg that was only scientifically documented in the 1990s. The Mekong River, which runs for about 400 kilometers along Laos's western border, is not navigable from the sea due to natural obstacles like the Cone Falls, an enormous waterfall nearly 11 kilometers wide, which is the largest waterfall in Southeast Asia. This waterfall acts as a natural barrier, preventing Laos from utilizing the Mekong for oceanic trade, further isolating it economically and geographically. This geographic isolation has profound implications. Laos's lack of access to the sea and limited navigable rivers restrict its ability to participate in international trade, leading to economic disadvantages. Its small land area, difficult terrain, and limited arable land mean fewer opportunities for large-scale agriculture and urban development. These factors, combined with its low GDP per capita, ranking among the poorest countries in the world, further reinforce its sparse population distribution. Laos's GDP per capita is comparable to some sub-Saharan African countries, despite its geographic size and resource potential. Despite the lasting scars of war, colonization, and social upheaval, these countries are now on a trajectory of recovery and demographic stabilization. It is conceivable that their populations will eventually reach levels more in line with regional averages, and their population densities will become less of an anomaly compared to Vietnam and Thailand. In conclusion, the demographic landscape of mainland Southeast Asia is shaped by a complex interplay of geography, history, and socio-political factors. The low population densities of Laos and Cambodia are rooted in their challenging terrains, limited arable land, critically their turbulent histories marked by war, colonization, and genocide. Vietnam's high population density is supported by its fertile river deltas, favorable climate, and advantageous geography, while Thailand's moderate density stems from a similar mix of geography and development. Over time, as recovery continues and demographic trends evolve, these disparities may lessen, leading to a more balanced and integrated demographic fabric across mainland Southeast Asia.